I think my belief is that cold outreach is dead.
Steve Jobs was famously anti-market research. Consumers don't know what they want until you show it to them.
Everything around you is being tested, whether it's an ad or it's a product or a packaging. And we normally work with that consumer insight department, and they are the one who work closely hand in hand with us. If you're running helter skelter selling to everybody, then you're selling to nobody. Picking your core product and your core positioning becomes the most important thing. Yes? The startup is not the bed of roses, and more than that, it's a bed of thorns. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Founder Thesis podcast. I'm Rajiv Lamba. I'm CEO of Neurosensum.
Rajiv, how did you end up becoming an entrepreneur? Tell me about that, the journey to starting up.
This happened in Jakarta, Indonesia.
Hmm.
In 2011, I joined an organization called Cadence International. That was in Jakarta. It was started by my friend, and he started that in 2007. So after 4 years, I decided to join him as one of the shareholders. So I was not the sole entrepreneur or the owner of the company, but I was one of the early starter. So
Who
from
who
two,
were you at that point of time?
sorry,
Who were you at 2014, 2012? Like who was Rajiv?
oh,
Like,
okay, who was I at that point? I was a market researcher.
hmm.
At that time, I was working in an organization called
Okay,
Nielsen Indonesia. So I was in the field of consumer research. So
okay.
at that time, I was very young, so so I decided to leave Nielsen to join a very small company. At that time, the word of startup was not there. It was like I'm joining a business. I want to join. So the startup world was not there
Yeah,
at that point of time.
yeah.
So in 2011, I joined this company called Cadence International, again in the field of market research. Very small organization in Indonesia, which me and my
Consumer
the found
research.
sorry, and I was a researcher. Yes,
Consumer research.
that's correct.
Okay. Hmm.
That's correct. So 2011, when I started, when I joined Cadence International, from there till the time the Cadence got bought by one of the Japanese firm. So till 2011 till 2017, those 6 years gave me the taste of entrepreneurship because the company was very small and we really scaled it up. And then I was one of the early founder of their Vietnam office as well as their Middle East office. So that 6 years gave me a taste of what a world of entrepreneurship is all about, the world of sacrifices, the world of investing into an organization. Not only that, I think also it's not about just scaling up, but also getting an earn out. So when the company got sold in 2014,
Who bought it?
I'm one of the Japanese firms is called Cross Marketing Group.
Okay.
So they're also in the field of consumer research. They wanted more global scale operations. That's the reason they bought Cadence. So from 2014 till 17, I got my earnout. 17, I left Cadence and I started Neurosensum. So I think those 6 years really taught me how you build an organization. And then 2018, I started Neurosensum, where I went about fundraising, so on and so forth.
Hmm. Okay. Plus, you had the cushion of some of your own earnings through the sale. So it it was not like you were completely dependent on a salary.
But yeah, definitely. I think I had that cushion of getting an earnout. It was not a massive earnout, but it was a decent earnout for me to take uh, to me to jump into being a sole founder. So that cushion was definitely there for me to start when I started Neurosensum. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, I've graduated from my MBA in 2002, and we had market research as a subject. And I remember there used to be projects in every subject, and in our market research subject. The project was to actually conduct a survey, and we would print out something and go to people and fill out the questionnaire in front of them. Is that how it happens now? How does consumer research happen now? Like,
So I think still it happens broadly like the way you explained. The world of me asking you and you telling me. So previously people were filling pen and paper. Now it has gone more into a tablet form. So that still happens a lot predominantly. But now there is also a world of online where I can just send you a link and you can just type on your mobile phone or on your desktop. So that's called online surveys. That has started coming a lot in our part of the world. When I say our part of the world, basically Asia. But if you go to the developed nations, a lot of that is a very online survey. Apart from that, there are a lot of more elements of technology which has come in. Technology like neuroscience, where without even asking consumers, you can understand their expressions. So that has taken a big shape in the industry in the last 5, 6 years, which is going beyond what consumers claim. But I'll not say world has completely moved into a neuroscience base, but that's the transition which is happening across companies.
and this is the idea that this is the bet you took when you started Neurosensum, right? That uh, there is a way to do consumer research in which you don't ask your consumers, but you read their expressions and decode them.
That's correct. So I think I saw this in US uh, many early years. In fact, when I was in my MBA time, that was way, way, way back. We had a small uh, document around this, a small thesis around that. But when I went to US, and I used to constantly go to US at that point of time because the world of internet was not as much as it is right now. So at that time, your only way that you could learn is to travel and attend conferences. So I saw this emerging field of neuroscience where I picked up a lot of things and I started kind of reverse engineering and learning. And that's something it really fascinated me where the world was moving towards. And of course, then I took it on myself that I want to. I was just getting bored with conventional way of doing research, and clients were not everybody was happy with it because you're telling a client to launch a product based on what consumers are claiming. And in Asia, people tend to be so nice and polite. And many times your recommendations, they were not coming true. And the question was always the holy grail was, can I understand feeling and expressions? And that's why I think neuroscience played a very important role in bridging that gap. And I was lucky enough to see it, learn it, and then experiment it in Indonesia to begin with. And those early days of experimentation has now led to a big business, is what I'm leading right now.
Steve Jobs was famously anti-market research. I believe he said something like, "Consumers don't know what they want until you show it to them." Something
I
like that.
think, yeah, I've read that quote multiple times. If you ask consumers to create what they want to have, see, a lot of those things are latent, right? Which is there hidden in their heart. People will not tell you that I need an ATM. They can only say that, oh, I want some. There's a hole that I can take the money from, right? Now, ultimately, a marketer converts them into an ATM. Very similarly, I think a consumer can never tell you completely what hidden in their heart or their feelings. That is something that you have to decode. And a conventional market research cannot always help you to decode those feelings. That's why I believe conventional market research really lacks. Uh, I'm still astonished that people are still using those traditional methodologies even 30, 35 years from the time market research industry started. But I'm happy that people have started understanding that there's a shift that everybody has to take. And possibly that is because it takes a lot for an elephant to dance. Nobody gets fired choosing IBM. This is a classic story that we have heard.
Got it. How did you tell me the journey from idea to the first revenue, like coming in? There must have been a journey of developing a product before you went out to market and all that. Just take me through that, like from when you decided to start it till the revenue started coming in. What was that journey like?
So that journey was very interesting. And so there are multiple ways that you can do a neuroscience based research. So I saw two or three different technologies. One technology was about the EEG devices. Of course, when we go to, we know about the field of healthcare. When you go to a neurologist, how they put the device on your head to understand how the brain is functioning. So I saw very similar devices.
What's the full form of that term?
Eh, yeah, electroencephalogram.
Okay, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So
It's that
that
those sensors are stuck onto your scalp
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
reading
yeah.
your brain frequency, your brain waves or something.
That's
Okay,
correct. That's correct. But I think the idea was that they are very easy to use devices. Okay, at that time, the western part of the world was using EEG devices for neuroscience-based research, but some of them they were using MRI, some of them they were using 32 electrode, where it's a complete headband, and consumers were getting very nervous around it. Thankfully, I think when I started in 2018, there were relatively easier devices, like a simple headband that you can put on the head,
okay,
and we purchased some of those headbands. We didn't create the hardware, but then I hired a neuroscientist in India, and then we started doing multiple pilots with the consumers, of course, with their permission. This we tried three or four headbands. One was that a six-array device, which is basically reading the frontal part of your brain and taking a signal from there, and then with our neuroscience team, we started decoding, creating algorithms around it. We started testing those algorithms on different stimuli, on different advertisings or products. And that was the early stage of how the entire ideation converted into a product. So that was one piece that we created. It took a lot of experiments, a lot of internal funding, and that's where we fundraise because we want to test so many commercials around in Indonesia to begin with, as well as products or packaging to understand and create an algorithm which can be very accurate in predicting. So that was one methodology that we created. Second methodology was what I call as a pseudo neuro, because nothing can beat a brain device, right? That's the epitome, but it can be a bit more expensive. Second is what we call as the implicit testing. And this is again an app that I saw in US with one of the organizations. So the way implicit testing works, imagine if it's a time-based response. So imagine if I show you a product, say imagine this is iPhone and this is Samsung. I'm going to ask you, just tell me, Akshay, yes or no. If I show you iPhone and I ask you, is it innovative?
yes,
Okay, is Samsung innovative?
yes,
Okay, see, in both the cases you said yes, right? So traditional market research companies, I'll not name them, of course, everybody knows it. So they will tell you that both the companies are innovative. But if I ask you to do that on an app, I will tell you in your mind, iPhone is more innovative than Samsung. How do I know that? Because I've captured the speed of response. Of course, now I have not captured the time, but if I ask you to do it on a phone, I'll be able to capture how many milliseconds you're taking.
right,
So simple concept is that your brain has neurons and those neurons they build connections, right? So anything which is more subconscious in nature, you will react faster. If somebody throws a snake at you, you will not think twice, you'll just move. If a car comes your way, you will not think twice, you will immediately move. So that's called implicit testing. That's another way of measuring a subconscious conscious brand positioning. So this is
okay,
another app that we created where we could test out the brand position like the way I tested with you right now. So EG was one technique. Second technique was implicit testing. And then when we created this app, we created the algorithms in the background. Of course, consumer doesn't know what all you're calculating. So these are another technique that from ideation stage came to ultimately a commercial stage. Yeah, and other techniques like facial coding and eye tracking, which got created over a period of time. But these are the two techniques that we started with.
okay. Uh, what did you take to market first? The device based
Uh,
research or implicit testing?
the device based came in first, and then
Hmm.
we started with we launched the implicit one.
Okay, okay. I guess the device one is not really mainstream, right? I don't think companies actually invite consumers, ask them to wear a like a band with sensors.
I think companies, they don't do it directly themselves. They normally hire consultants like us or
Hmm.
organizations like us to do on their behalf. For
Hmm.
example, you see everything around you is being tested, whether it's an ad or it's a product or a packaging. So, but organization, they have a department called market research department. Every organization has a consumer insights department, and we normally work with that consumer insight department, and they are the one who work closely hand in hand with us. So ultimately, we are the one who are executing on their behalf, and we are calling these consumers to our office uh, to test the different stimuli that a client wants to test.
Okay, but is this mainstream? This device-based testing,
Uh,
or
I
is
think
it
when
a
you say
small part of your business?
it's a part of a business, I think when you say mainstream, of course, you can also buy these devices. Okay, a lot
Hmm.
of these people, they use these devices even for a meditative purpose. See, at the end of the day, what these devices are doing, I'll just quickly explain the concept to you so that everybody can understand the concept. See, our brain emits frequencies like alpha, beta, delta, theta, gamma. You would have heard about them, right? And it emits at a different frequencies in hertz. Now, each of these frequencies, they ultimately connote something. Normally, when we say that you're in an alpha zone, it means you're really relaxed.
Okay.
Okay, when you're in a gamma zone or a delta zone, that basically means you're very hyper or you're very uh, anxious about something.
Hmm.
So when you're looking at something or you're eating something, if I put this device in your head, what this device is doing is picking up those signals from your brain, those frequencies, and we, as a neuroscience team, has converted those frequencies into a marketing output,
Hmm.
right? So when you are in a very high anxious state, so we tell client that which part of their commercial people are getting confused, which part of the commercial they are engaged, which part of the commercial they are confused. So we use these technologies to read brains, but we have converted them into a very simple, logical marketing output. Is your product engaging? Is your product confusing? Is your advertising engaging? Which part of the ad is working, not working? Which is boring? Which is confusing? Yeah.
So the broad parameters that you measure consumer response on is confusion and engagement.
So the broad parameters that we measure are engagement, confusion, boredom, and snooze.
Okay.
Uh, Snooze is a state where you are physically you might be sitting, but you are completely detached. You are completely absent from there. So these are broadly four parameters that we measure, and on every stimulus, be it a packaging or a color or a product or an ad, we tell client where is their product or an ad in comparison to competition.
Okay. Okay. And so you in your first go to market was the device based testing, and then you started implicit testing.
Yeah.
Uh, Implicit testing is just taking signals around how much time you take to give an answer, or are there other signals also?
Yeah, so basically, it's mainly it's very time based. I'm trying to explain in a very layman language. So what we do is that we ultimately takes the time into consideration, right? And based on the time, we ultimately then we have created an algorithm which ultimately calculates and tells you which part of the stimuli is more attached to you at a subconscious level. Yes, so it's a time based technique.
Okay, 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 got it. And then you launched facial coding. What is
Then we
facial coding?
launched the eye tracking.
Eye tracking. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So basically, tracking, what happens with eye tracking? Initially, it was launched as a face-to-face mechanism. That when I'm meeting you, and when you're looking at a stimulus, either on a phone or a laptop, be an ad, be a packaging, be a planogramming. Planogram is basically is a shelf, right, which is there in a
Okay.
supermarket or mini market. So
Hmm.
where are your eyes navigating? And this helps again a marketer to design their package. Remember, everything around you has been researched. Even a
Yeah.
packaging has been researched. Should they
Hmm.
put a big logo or ingredient or brand name? Everything has been researched, which is traditionally it was done on a claim basis. Now we have moved into eye tracking. So this initially we started more as a face to face, where either you're wearing a glasses like this, which has sensors, or between you and the laptop, there's a eye tracking device. When I'm showing you something on the laptop, I'm measuring your eye gaze.
Okay.
And later on, when we realized that the world is moving towards online research, that I'm sitting here can do online research in the US, and then we started something called the web camera eye tracking. That you give me an access of your web camera, and I'll take your permission, and in the background the algorithm is running, and I'm able to gauge your eye track movement. That's called the eye tracking uh, gaze understanding. How much time you're spending, where you're spending time on the screen. It's done for UI UX. For example, when you have a new website design, when you have a new app design, this completely has been moved into eye tracking based understanding.
Okay. Okay. Uh, does the webcam give that kind of resolution needed for tracking eyes?
It is not as accurate as a device which is stationary, because see, a webcam on a desktop is far more accurate because your desktop is stationary. You might
Right.
be moving a bit here and there. Of course, we give instructions to the respondent to be stationary. With the mobile phone, it's not very accurate. I think it gives you
Okay.
80-85% of accuracy because people can move a bit, right?
Right.
But with the desktop, it's very accurate. With mobile, it's around 85% accuracy.
Okay. 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 Got it. Got it. Okay. And uh, what are the outputs coming out by measuring eye tracking?
So see, the output which eye tracking tells you, I'll give you an example. Say I show you one pack and I show you second pack. So when you look at first pack, I will understand how you're navigating. Basically, it gives you something called as a heat map in a technical terms. But what it means in a very simple language, layman language, where are you focusing, how much time you're spending, and how are you navigating. And the output that it basically tells client that, see, on a pack, if I'm a shampoo, I want to communicate aloe vera. I've got one aloe vera ingredient, and that's something I want to communicate. But if people are not even looking at my aloe vera ingredient, then possibly there's something lacking in my packaging. Either aloe vera is really at the bottom, or it's very small, or aloe vera is not connoting aloe vera, it might be connoting amla to some consumers, right? So those are things that eye tracking basically tells you that how where people are looking at and how much time they're spending. So if you've got an option of packaging A, B, C, which packaging is communicating what you want a consumer to understand? Second thing, if I show you a shelf like a planogram, because like in a supermarket, you've got a lot of products, right? Now every product wants to cut through from the planogram. What it basically means, again in a simple layman language, that in a mini market, every brand is fighting for a visibility space, not
Yeah.
only standalone visibility, but whether you are able to see that or not as a consumer. So again, when we do a packaging testing using eye tracking, we understand, is your packaging cutting through in a shelf when other packs have also been placed,
Which is
right?
again through a heat map.
Which is again heat maps. It's again heat maps, time is spent, navigation, all of that people they get from eye tracking. So this is what eye tracking output looks like.
Got it. Okay. 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 Got it. Got it. I guess a lot of app design companies use a heat map software which tells them where the mouse has gone.
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
like a version of that, which is telling you where the eyes have traveled, where have they spent time, and things
Correct.
like
Correct. Absolutely.
that. Okay, 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 okay. And so after eye tracking is when you launched facial coding. So what is facial coding?
So when we launched facial coding, it has not been very successful for us. I'll tell you why. So facial coding, what it does, it reads your facial muscles.
Like if you're smiling or frowning
Yes.
or
So either you are smiling, you're a bit sad when you're looking at a stimulus. So that the entire output depends on how much is the movement of a facial muscle.
hmm,
Okay, so there are 64 or more facial muscles that you have, and they move. The algorithm is capturing those facial movements, and it is giving you an output whether you're sad, you're angry, uh, you're distressed, whatever it is, right? So I'm just giving you some parameters. Now the issue that I faced when we launched facial coding, and it has been consistent over the years, that as Asians we don't, at least in a controlled environment, when I'm asking you to see something, until as that element is very differently executed or very creatively different, people, they don't tend to move their facial muscles in a research environment. For example, when I'm speaking to you, possibly I might see that a lot of times your facial muscles will be constant, which is a neutral zone. So the
Right.
issue with that is, and that happens a lot in an Asian context. In a Western context, we do see more nuances of a facial muscle. Uh, there's a classic thing that Asians, they speak through eyes, Westerns, they speak through face. So
Okay.
in a research environment, as consumers, we don't really move our facial muscles too much. And that's one of the reasons that in a facial expression, though we created algorithm, we tested everything,
Hmm.
but ultimately we realized that everything was coming neutral. Then 90% of the time, the facial muscles are not moving and it's coming in a neutral zone. So the
Hmm.
entire objective of facial expressions for a market research purpose was not getting solved. Of course,
Hmm.
for a facial recognition as a use case can be much wider for multiple cases, but for our use case in Asia, it was not giving the kind of results that we wanted, and we never scaled up in Asia. But when we do it in the developed part of the world, we do still use facial muscles here or facial expressions.
Okay. 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 Got it. Okay. Um, so these in these business lines, the implicit testing, the device testing, facial coding, eye tracking. What is the revenue split between them? Like, I'm just trying to understand which of these is like your hero offering.
So I'll say the hero offering number one is EEG.
Okay.
Uh, among three of them, I
Okay.
think
How much
EEG.
of the revenue is from EEG?
I'll say approximately 30% of our revenue streams come from EEG.
Okay.
30-35% will be from EEG. Uh,
Okay.
I'll say implicit testing gives another 30%, so it's almost near to the hero. And eye tracking bit gives the remaining part. Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
And we also do some conventional research on top of that, which because not every client wants to move to neuros on straight on day one. So that's
hmm.
something that we also do. So I think I'll say EEG plus implicit are the top two products for us.
Okay. Okay. So, Neurosensum is a services company, or like is it like a SaaS solution where the client does self service, or do you run service for them as an end to end service?
So Neurosensum has got two brands. One is a neuroscience-based consulting that we have talked about till now. So that's
Yes.
a service business.
Okay.
But we also have a software called surveysensum, which is a SaaS.
Okay.
So surveysensum is like a DIY survey platform. So not every time everybody can go to a consulting, be us or others. So people have got so many questions about their consumer behavior understanding. When they cannot afford a consulting service, we provide them surveysensum, which is our SaaS offering.
Okay. 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 Uh, Marketing services as an industry, purely as an outsider, I have the impression that this is like a very cutthroat kind of a business. There is no client loyalty. There is always churn, and you're constantly hunting for new clients. Is that the case?
You're talking about the services part or the SaaS part?
Services,
Services
services,
part.
services. Yes.
I can tell you that our client retention has been around 95%.
Okay.
All right. Now, see, you're very right in pointing this out, and I think that happens with every industry which becomes a commodity. So when
Right.
any industry becomes a commodity, then it's almost like whether we are my I eat this rice or my किसी और का rice खा लूं. So rice is the rice at the end of the day. So I think when everything becomes a commodity, that's where the loyalty becomes very low. I think that's one of the reasons I was very when I started this organization, I wanted to always differentiate versus what others are doing. I think for us the loyalty being so high because I'll say that we are possibly might be the top five neuro companies in the world right now in terms of the tools
Okay.
and techniques and the outputs that we provide. And the clients has loved them number one. Second, because we originate from Asia, we are not as expensive as a US based organization. That's number two. So we're able to provide our neuro offerings almost at a cost of a traditional offering. So a lot of other organizations which are giving traditional research, our neuro offering is almost matching that traditional offering. So we're giving something on top of what clients are getting from others and not too much of a markup. And that has really helped us a lot in terms of differentiating our offerings and retaining the clients and getting a higher retention. I think for me as an entrepreneur, it's always, the classic thing, either you differentiate or die.
Hmm.
So if you are exactly selling what others are selling, then there's no fun of doing what you're doing.
Hmm. Right. Okay. Uh, how operationally, how is it done? Is this like a business which needs local presence? Like your head office was Indonesia, but if you would get business from a Vietnamese company, you would need local presence in Vietnam to run the service. Because especially when we're talking of the EEG survey, where you need someone who's trained on that, and there is a
Hmm.
physical device also. So
Yeah.
how does it happen? Like,
So you'll be very surprised that we do a lot of work in Southeast Asia, sitting out of Indonesia, with even with EEG. So what we have done, we have identified multiple partners. So when we get these inbound queries coming from either Thailand or a Vietnam or a Malaysia, even from Taiwan, so what we have done, we have identified these multiple partners, and we have kept some devices with those partners. Number one, and even in a country where we don't have partners, we ask somebody to travel from Indonesia to that country, more from a fieldwork execution. If it's an EEG based methodology, all right. Now in that case, the lead can come from any part of the world. Execution either can happen through partners because we have trained those partners. If they can't, then somebody travels along with the devices to execute that project. And I think I also think that post COVID, a lot of way the businesses have happened has changed big time, because previously I used to travel a lot that you have to go to Malaysia to present to a Malaysian client. But now, sitting from any part of the world, we are presenting to any individual. So people have so got used to being very comfortable somebody presenting over a desktop. I think over a Zoom or a Google Meet, that's the normal way. So I'll say that AG has that limitation that you have to train your partners, you have to have the devices ready, or you're willing to travel. Number one. But when it comes to implicit testing or eye tracking, that is very scalable, right? I don't need you physically to play on the app. I can just send you online link. You can fill your questionnaires online. You can do your app thing online or eye tracking online. So that's very scalable for that. Anyways, you don't even need partners, because the device doesn't need to be physical. It can still be on a very online. We call that as an online panel. It can
okay.
completely be done online as long as you have a good marketing and sales team to get the lead acquisition.
Mm.
Yeah,
The uh, l- by lead acquisition, you mean companies who want service done?
correct. The companies who want service done, right? Either it comes as the inbound marketing lead, or sales team
Right.
reaches out to different part of the world, just to
Hmm.
present credentials and generate the lead. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. The implicit and eye tracking test also must be significantly cheaper for a client, right?
Yes, of course.
Because
Because
hmm,
yeah, because I don't need to
price
meet you in the
difference.
office every time,
Okay. Is it
right?
like a 2x difference in price or more than that?
I think approximately half, to a large extent, if it's done online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think for a very simple reason, because in AEG you have to come to my office as a consumer.
Yes.
So that cost of coming plus the devices cost becomes heavier. But having said that, EEG gives you the maximum accuracy in a neuro, because reading a brain signal is far more accurate versus any other methodologies, but it comes with the cost.
Hmm. And what are people testing in the EEG tests? Like ad films.
Adference products,
Okay.
for example, when
Product
you
as in the packaging or like the features or what? Like
as in the taste test. So, like for
taste
example,
test.
you want to test your coffee vis-a-vis competitors,
Right.
biscuits. You want to test your tea
Hmm.
vis-a-vis competitors. So this is what is called as the product testing. So
Right.
taste testing is a very big field of consumer research.
And
Uh,
this can only be done offline. This cannot happen online. So
EEG
the
cannot happen online because you need a calibration to happen. You need people to come physically to your office. So that's the limitation of EEG. Yeah.
mm, even the taste test would need offline, or you can ship samples and run a taste test online.
Uh, See, if you want to do a conventional research using for taste testing, you can do it online also. But if you want to execute using EEG, then you
Hmm.
have to have person physically
Offline.
in your
Right.
office. Yeah.
Okay. How much does it cost? And I mean, there would be so many nuances to it, like how many people are getting surveyed, and
Yeah.
the scope of work would depend. I mean, would determine how much it would cost. But
Right.
just help me understand through an example. Like if a company wants this kind of survey done, this is what would be a ballpark cost estimate.
So typically, any EEG, I'll give an average value that we have. Of course, it varies, as I said, right? Number of cities you want to do, number of sample that you want to survey. It's a function of both of them. But typically, the value will be close to $8,000 per project. We call it as per project to
Hmm.
$10,000 a project. So that's a typical value as an average across all. So we work with more than 350 companies right now across the globe, and that's a typical deal size we get per EEG project. Yeah.
Okay. And one project is going to answer one question. For example, does my coffee taste better than competitors? So that
Yeah.
question will get answered in this one project.
That's correct. That's correct. So
Okay.
typically, people they normally come to us with one particular use case
Hmm.
that I like what you mentioned, or can you please check my ad film? You can also check two ad films, by the way.
Okay.
Can you check my two ad films vis-a-vis competitor? It can be done even in one project. Or can you check my two or three flavors that I want to launch vis-a-vis competitor? That can be part of one project. Yeah, that's called use case.
Okay. 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 Got it. Got it. Okay. And how do you source respondents? Is that your headache or the company provides you respondents?
That's our headache. So
Okay.
normally bigger organizations they normally just outsource a use case that this is a problem statement that I have. So we don't have our own recruitment team. We normally work with the partners again. Because it's impossible to have your own team in every part of the world, right? So it's impossible. So we work with different partners who help us to provide these venues, uh, these consumers based on the profile that a client wants. So we pay to these partners as a part of the project. Yeah.
Okay. 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 Who are these partners? Give me an example.
I will not be able to tell you the name, but these are called fieldwork partners. Okay,
So
so
these are
they
agencies of their own, and they specialize in recruiting
correct,
respondents,
correct. So these are
executing.
not the consulting companies; they are the agencies of their own who are specialized. Yeah.
Ah, got it, got it, got it. Okay, 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 okay. Understood, understood. Okay, and this neurosensor business, like one or two more questions I want to ask, then we'll move to
Sure,
service sensor. Uh,
sure.
what kind of revenue do you estimate it will do this financial year?
Um, I think that business for us is see overall we are in double digit $1 million.
$1. Okay.
Uh, so I can't tell you the exact number. I'm sorry for
Yeah, yeah,
that.
understood,
Yeah.
understood. So
So
two businesses combined are double digit.
yeah. So
And
combined as a company, we are at double digit $1 million on the sales. Approximately 65 to 68% of that is a neuroscience based business. Yeah.
okay, okay. And there's like teens, double digit. By double digit, you mean in the teens?
Uh, early double digit numbers. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, okay. Understood, understood. Okay. So, when did the service and some uh, diversification start? What is the story behind that?
This is a very interesting story. So when we went with uh, in Indonesia in 2018, when we went with to clients with neuroscience story, I think they appreciated that, and they also felt that these guys have some good combination of right and left brain, which means they thought, okay, these guys know how to innovate. So when we were presenting neuroscience use cases and companies were using it, one very classic problem came from the organization. They said, no, I want to do so much of research, but the problem is I can't come to you or any other consulting company. But I've got so much of queries which are coming from our marketing department. Very simple reason because more brands are getting launched, more questions are coming to the consumer insights team from the marketing department, right? But they cannot uh, go to a traditional company, uh, consulting company, and the issue was the traditional tools that they use like SurveyMonkey, Typeform, Google Form, they were not as advanced in terms of the dashboarding. Of course, you can create forms or questionnaires here, but when it comes to dashboarding, when it comes to reporting, these tools are not good enough. They can't give you the advanced level of dashboard or advanced level of reporting. So that is a problem statement that we understood. Second, these tools are still very manually done, right? There's no AI involved in those tools to a large extent because normally in a survey you ask so many questions that And some questions are very open-ended questions. Why you're happy, why you're not happy. Okay. Now, when it comes to the local language dialect, these tools could not understand they could not do the analysis of the local languages, right? Because surveys are asked in Hindi, in Bahasa Indonesia, in Thai, in Vietnamese. So this is a big problem statement that we identified. And we said, okay, now what we realized that what people are ultimately asking for is a good customer feedback platform that they can use, but this platform should not be very manual in nature. It has to have a very good AI element attached to it so that people can read the data, dashboards can ultimately tell them that your product is losing, and all of that automatic summary should also come. So that is a big part of the problem statement, right? Why do I go to a consultant? Because consultant knows more than me. Consultant knows how to interpret the data. But if a software can interpret the data for you and can give you a chart that here's you have this problem statement, this is a survey that you can create, you can send to your consumers, your database. You don't have to create a chart. Dashboards will come live, chart will come live. You can just click change chart type. But the software can also give you a complete summary. Your ad is not doing well. Why? Because this part of the ad was boring. People
Okay.
did not find it credible. People did not find it unique. Right? If the software can automatically tell you that, then you don't need a consultant.
Hmm.
You need consultants in very few cases in that case. So that is a
So
big problem.
you've embedded the implicit testing and eye tracking technology into surveysensum in a
Uh,
self-service.
we have just started doing that. So when we started Service Ensum, the problem statement was very simple that I want to do more research, but I cannot afford a consulting company every time. But can you please give me a software which is like a magic that these traditional old fuddy-duddy softwares are not able to do? So that was the big problem statement that came in, right? Because everybody can create a survey, or everybody can create a survey platform, but creating a survey platform which has that end objective requires a lot of capabilities of from a tech perspective, from an AI perspective.
Hmm.
And that's why we started conceptualizing this after we talked to a lot of clients, and we felt that there's a big need gap. Of course, moving traditional consulting to neuro is what we've already done. But can we also fill this big need gap so that everybody can do surveys like a Air Asia, right? Everybody can fly. So every company can do surveys and every company can do more surveys. So that's how Service System got originated. Where do you now, if you look at Service System software and if you try it out, uh, you can create surveys. You can integrate that on your own ecosystem, which means if you have got a customer database which people were not utilizing, people had so much of database sitting in the CRM system, but they were going to a consulting company every time to understand insights. But if you've got so much of customer database, you can also go to your own customer and send surveys. And then we provided API integrations on social media, app, CRM. So the idea that you can do in the moment real time feedback on any channel that your customers are interacting with, you're able to get these dashboards real time. You're able to get complete understanding of what is happening real time. That's how a service engine came into picture. It took us 1.5 years to design the basic part of the platform, and a tech is always work in action, right? It's never stopping. But I think from that point to now, there's so much changes and innovation which has happened, where I think our clients are able to do more service at a fraction of a cost and at a very scalable manner is what Service Center provides.
Okay. Um, I'm going to kind of play a little bit of the devil's advocate. A Google form can give you the output in a Google sheet, and
Yeah,
on a Google sheet you can do pivot tables and whatever, and get it.
yeah,
Like you can do analytics on that data with basic knowledge of how to use a spreadsheet.
right.
So, uh, and for a minute, let's not include the implicit testing, eye tracking technology, which obviously is a differentiator. But if we
Yeah,
put that aside, then what is the differentiator?
cool. So I think, see, you're right. A Google form can give you an Excel output that you can run a pivot table,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you what Google form cannot give you, right? See, sometimes, as humans, we do not calculate the value of time. In developed part, people, they calculate the value of time because the time is expensive. In Asia, people, they don't calculate the value of time. So you doing it yourself, you can still do it, But larger enterprises and mid-sized enterprises, they calculate the value of a time as well as the value of a resource. So I'm not saying that SMEs have moved to us, but the focus has been large to mid-sized enterprises because for
Got it.
them hiring one more headcount is very difficult. Number one. Second, a lot of these organizations they want decision making which happens on a real-time basis, so much faster. By the time you convert those pivot tables into a dashboard, then you report to your CEOs, you can do that for one survey. What if you have 10 problem statements in a day? Can you create those 10 charts? You will need 10 more analysts to do that, right?
Okay. Yeah,
I'll,
it's
I'll
not.
give you some, yes, I'll give you some more examples. When you cannot integrate a Google form with your ecosystem, you can still do an API integration, but the issue is they don't have a ticketing system. What I mean by that, say for example, if you're using an airline and the moment you booked a ticket, you were not happy with the entire experience, in a Google form, I will only know that somebody is not happy. Then I have to go item by item to understand, oh, who's not happy? Oh, Akshay is not happy. That will again take time. But in our software, when somebody is not happy, there's something called as a detractor alert, which is a closer loop. That's what these platforms are even more actionable than a consulting. So what happens at the moment I know Akshay, who has used my airline, suddenly he's booked a ticket, he's not happy, an alert will go to my customer support team. And immediately a call will come to you. So that before they lose you, they're able to retain you. And I tell everybody, we always talk about 4 P's of marketing, traditional way, right? Product, placement, price, and positioning. But now customer experience has become a new differentiator. So because cost of acquisition is 6 times the cost of retention. That's what the software ultimately is able to do if you think from a core differentiator perspective. What are we doing? We are able to ensure that you are able to retain your customers by knowing their deep insights much faster. And that's what the traditional software they're not able to do. Like a ticket, a real-time alert, going to a customer support team, integrating with the entire ecosystem. You don't need 5 different platforms. One platform can sit in the center. It can integrate with the chat bot, with your CRM system, with your social media, with your app, and everything is happening in one software, which is giving you the dashboard, is giving you tickets, is giving you real insights. You don't have to create charts. You don't need all of those 15. And for one of our clients in Indonesia, believe me, they had 20 analysts because they were using the traditional survey platform. And the moment we implemented it, those 18 analysts were used for something else, right? And they
Right.
save so much of time at a fraction of the cost. So this
Hmm.
is how the differentiation comes in.
Okay, got it, got it. And the implicit testing, eye tracking, when will it go live into Service Sensor?
I think by 2025, now we are working towards putting that as a part of the module, right? Initial vision when we started Neurosensum and when surveysensum came in, I was anyways visualizing this, that can client do a DIY plus Neuro together in one. So now I
Right.
think we're at a stage where we'll start putting these uh, algorithms as a part of the module. So imagine like in a DIY, you can either say survey platform or survey platform with Neuro. If you click at that, it gives you access to eye tracking and implicit testing.
Right. And
But
then you can
that's a work
upload
in
an
progress.
ad.
So, yeah, and then you can upload an ad.
And
If you want our customer database, then we work with again partners and so on and so forth. Yeah,
okay, okay, okay. So you have respondents available, or companies can send it to their own CRM entries.
they can definitely do that because that's where the integration comes. But in case people they want our help to do, like for example, one of the Indian company, uh, they want to do surveys in US because they've got a good business sitting out of US, and US everything has moved online in terms of the research. That's what we again integrate with those partners, with the partners in US who can help us to get these online responses.
Right.
So an Indian company can create surveys. Surveys can go to those partners. Of course, they have to pay for the additional money on top of the subscription for the respondent access. So I think that's what the work in progress in 2025 actually, which is to put neuro element as a part of the survey element.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Which essentially would be like converting your. I mean, to some extent, it will cannibalize your services business, but then it the scale opportunity is much larger there.
Yeah, that's correct. It might cannibalize some of that because some of the clients are coming to us as a consultant. But see, I think somebody else killing you and your business
Yes. True. True.
is
True.
better to cannibalize your own self because you know where the world will move towards.
Yes. 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 Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's better that you take your services business away instead of someone else building a product and taking it away. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Um, what is the? I mean, AI is such a buzzword today. Every product has AI in it. But I mean, is AI a core part of the product, or is it like convenience? Like for a lot of products, AI is basically making it more convenient to use the
Hmm.
product. Like if you are using a, like say if you're posting a job on LinkedIn, LinkedIn will write the job description for you
Yeah.
through,
Yeah.
through an LLM.
Yeah.
Uh, so I just want to understand what is the use case of AI in service system.
Right. I'll say AI in service system is not convenience. It's a core. That core ultimately provides convenience. That is given, right?
How is it a core? What is
Yeah.
AI
I'll
doing?
give an example. Again, I think I'll give an example with a real use case. One of the biggest, there are two companies. I'll give an example. One of the biggest automotive company in Indonesia, when they were sending their service before they use service system. See, in any survey, you also have something called the open-ended question. What is the
Okay.
open-ended question? For example, if you say, I'm not happy with your service, there's a subsequent question which comes, why you're not happy.
Right.
And when you
Okay.
type up those questions, and
Hmm.
imagine you're sending this service to 1 million customers because you are sitting on a huge database, right?
Right.
Now, traditionally, what was happening, these analysts were doing it manually. They were looking at this. Even it happens in the research agencies, by the way, right? Research agencies traditional are still doing it very manually. So this 1 million text comes in. Out of this 1 million, possibly imagine 200,000 are not happy for whatever reason, and the text is coming in. And these analysts are manually tagging that data and analyzing it. And it is taking them 2 or 3 weeks even to tag, analyze, and give you the findings. Now, with the
Right.
help of NLP, your like natural level programming, it can identify those tags and give you the complete summary of what this actual data is all about. This
Hmm.
has been used a lot in social media analytics, so on and so forth. But again, I think the native languages, text and sentiment analysis at accuracy level was very, very weak, which has become better with the time.
Hmm.
Now, something like this is, I will say, is a core. Does
Yes.
it
Yes.
provide convenience? Of course, it provides convenience, right? But
Hmm.
that's a core differentiator that your algorithm can give you in any languages of the world. It can give you a predictive uh, algorithm which is making a summary of all of this textual data. Number one. Second, what I call as the NLG. Now, when this data comes in, with the dashboard data comes in, right? You're getting all this chart. You have asked 50 questions, 30 questions, 20 questions on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 to 7. All of this is ultimately coming in a form of table or a chart. Now, you have to read that chart manually and you have to interpret. And you have to interpret whether this is good or this is bad. Now, rather than your brain interpreting it, if the automatically summary comes in, it's called automatic summary of a chart, which
Hmm.
is the nice natural language generation, right?
Okay.
Again,
Yep.
that becomes a core. But does it provide convenience? Of course, it provides convenience. I don't have to apply my own brain. But
Hmm.
is that algorithm ultimately making me brain dead because
Hmm.
my creativity and my brain cells are not functioning? That's a separate question in itself. But ultimately, it's helping me to take a decision, take an informed decision because I'm able to get insights.
Hmm.
Not everybody is good at generating insights. People who are good with numbers can generate insights, right? Now, these two things, I'll say, has become a core to me, or to the platform, or even to our clients, because they're getting so much benefit out of this.
Hmm. Okay. 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 Understood. Um, I want to spend some time on advice for founders around market research and since you've been from the industry and your clients are using you for their own market research needs, specifically like advice for startup founders on market research. um, when should you actually consider outsourcing market research to an agency? Like, what level of maturity should your product have, or what kind of revenue should your product be at for you to consider making that kind of spend to bring in a professional and invest in consumer insights, and how what are the benefits of that? Because maybe at a very early stage it may not be needed.
Yeah. So I think I'll say every startup should definitely gather consumer insights, right? Whichever can be the mechanism. but it should not be a gut feel. Still, I see many organizations in Asia or around the world. They might be running at even 200 crore business, like a D2C brand and all, but they're still using gut feel, which is okay. Gut feel can take you to a level,
So
but as
using that
founders,
feel for like the packaging, the ad films that they are making, those are the things that they're using gut feel for.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which,
Still, I think in many organizations, people are still using gut feel,
hmm,
okay, because they want faster, they want speed, right? Now, my thing is that whether you start a founder or even a small company founder, I believe the first thing that people should do is to understand that these consumer insights can give them a lot of information, and they can take informed decisions. Sometimes people they still go with their gut feel. That's a different case. But the idea is that can your decision making be better?
hmm,
Because people need to understand that every large organization is becoming successful. That when they launch most of those products, they become successful because backed by consumer insights.
hmm.
Now that's
Okay.
number one point, right? So everybody should do, whether it's a small company or big company. Now,
So
how
consumer
did
insight is a way of de-risking your product development and packaging and
yeah,
advertising strategies. Like
and a
essentially,
positioning, right?
ah, right. Okay.
And
Okay.
even a positioning, right?
Hmm.
Shall I, when I'm creating a new concept, I don't need to wait for the product. I can just create a concept and test it out, right?
Hmm.
So,
Right.
in a way, it's not taking away your gut feel. It's not taking away your creativity because your products are getting designed with the creativity. You can always take some consumer feedback. Now, the question is, do you need to hire a consulting company to do it for you, or do you can use something else? Then, of course, if you don't have too much of money to pay, you can use this kind of software, right? A lot of people they don't know. They love this software. I mean, see, a lot of people they still think the SurveyMonkey is the way to go because that's the most popular platform or a Google
Yes.
form, but they don't know there are better solutions out there, which might not have the marketing budgets like a SurveyMonkey. But I'll say every startup founder should search for these kind of tools. Doesn't matter whether SurveySensum or something else. And if you cannot afford a consulting company, use those softwares to take even better informed decisions. Because these softwares are far smarter, uh, and you don't have to put too much of time and brain behind it. And then comes third part when the organization becomes bigger. There can be some complex situations where a software possibly cannot help you, where you start want to get a much more subconscious responses, right? That might be say a company which has become 500 crore and plus. They've got so much innovations going. They've got more budget. They're profitable. They can start spending more into market research. Because traditionally people they just think, oh, let me spend on the ad. That's good enough for me, right? So I tell everybody start spending a bit more on market research. And when you've got a lot of innovations and you want to de-risk, because launching it, distributing it, you've anyways fired a bullet and you waste so much of money, and people ultimately they don't realize that these small elements can help them because I think possibly as an industry also it has not become so popular in a large way. People they don't know that what all this industry can do. So my belief is that start with the basic software. If you're not that big, once you start becoming bigger, you can allocate more budget. Go to the consulting organization, especially when you want to talk about the consumer subconscious understanding.
And what's the right way to design a survey? Are there any best practices that you want to share, or is it like very very contextual and not possible to give generic best practices?
I think it's very contextual, but I'll say ChatGPT has made our life simpler.
Ah, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. True,
so
true.
of course, even in the softwares like ours, there are so many templates that we have put in.
Hmm.
You want to design a packaging test, use this template. You want to design an ad test, use this template. But sometimes you might not like those templates. But I'll say, ChatGPT has been utilized by almost every industry. And a lot of I normally see a lot of my clients when they want to create a survey, but they cannot see a good template out there, then they just go to ChatGPT and they keep on giving it prompts, and they get a questionnaire out of this.
Right. Yes. 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 True. 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 That's good advice. Uh, what about somebody who's building like B two B, either service or SaaS product? For such founders, what is the value of market research, and how should they think about market research?
I think if somebody is using a B2B product, be it services or be it SaaS, I think the value is same because for them, customer acquisition is important, but customer retention is equally important. So very basic surveys like net promoter score surveys, customer satisfaction survey at different touch points, right from onboarding, why somebody is exiting. Like then the question that you asked, uh, when people we lose customer, are we serving those customers that we're losing, or are we just waiting for our frontliners to tell us? And frontliners will only tell us what they do, what you always don't want to listen, right? Or they might just tell you, sir, just because of the price, somebody left out, moved out, but the
And,
reality can be service. Now,
right.
when you want to understand retention, so don't focus only on acquisition, but also focus on the churn and retention. Look at that metric very closely and try to understand why it is happening. So I'll say consumer research possibly is as equally important to them, uh, to understand their customers and understand their behavior.
And if a company which is building a SaaS product wants to get the UI UX surveyed,
Mhm.
like get feedback on the UI UX of the product, then
Yeah.
that would need a consulting company to enable that to happen, because that sounds like hard to uh, do through a platform.
You can still do it through platforms. See, a lot of companies they also do it in-house. See, of course, you can always go to a consulting company. Going to a consulting company for a UI UX, you can always do that.
Hmm.
See, a lot of heat maps, like you mentioned, right? There are softwares which can help you to do heat maps.
Okay.
But in case you already have some three UX designs, you can still go to a consumer and test on a platform. Like on a
Got it.
survey platform like surveysensum, you can add design one, design two, design three, and test
Right.
what people are liking, what they're not liking. It can just quickly give you a response. So you can do these heat maps internally using your own software, so that you can embed this information on top of that and take more, what I call system one and system two together. System one is more subconscious, coming from eye tracking, other outputs. System two is what consumers are rationalizing. You can always combine together and make an informed decision.
Okay, okay, okay. Understood. Tell me about fundraise. You just did that seed round, right? I think you have raised something like roughly $2 million till date.
No, we have done much more than that. So in fact, we have done our Series A plus till now. So we
Okay,
have done four round of fundraising.
okay.
So I think from 2018 till 2022 end.
Hmm.
So over these 4 years, we did four round of fundraising.
Total, how much have you raised?
I can't reveal the exact number, but it has been in a single digit, early single digit number.
Okay. Hmm.
Okay. I think what is very simple reason. I think within 3 years, we were moving towards a path of profitability. Within 4 years, we became profitable as an organization. Uh, of course, I think the idea was to get to profitability path as soon as possible. So we didn't even go to the double digit $1 million in terms of fundraise. I think within single digit, half of single digit, we were able to sustain through. Uh, and I think we raised from some of the angel investors in the seed round in 2018, and then post that we raised from a couple of VCs. One of that is Alpha JWC in Indonesia, then SIG Asia. So these are a couple of VCs that we have on board. Yeah, and I was just basically waiting for the right time to come when we really, move away from a burn game. So where you get into a path of profitability, so that I think, see, at the end of the day, you get respect when you build a sustainable business,
Yes.
right? And
So
that's one of the reasons I was very conscious that we have to move there.
you
Yeah.
are a bit positive.
Yes, we are a bit positive. We became a bit positive in 2000. We are still in single digit, a bit positive as a percentage. We are nearing double digit as
Wow.
we speak. So, but I think in 2022 we got to our break even and post that it has been a profitable venture till now.
And so, do you want to raise funds for maybe global expansion and things like that?
I think yes,
Or,
so. I think that's what the plan is. Uh, see, profitability at a stage where we are right now cannot help us to deep dive into a market like US, for example. Right? For example, I think we do have plans to expand to develop part of the world, given that the products that we have, and we know that we can really make an impact. I think for getting into those markets, definitely, I think it requires a far bigger fund versus the profitability where we are right now.
hmm.
I think that's what the plan. I think in the next 1 year, definitely we will go there.
Okay. What is your current country-wise split? Like, what are the top countries from where you get your revenues?
Uh, Indonesia is number one. That's how we started. So I'll say Indonesia gives us approximately 60%
Okay.
of our top line.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
India gives us approximately 20, 15 to 20% of our top line,
Hmm.
and remaining 20% comes from the western part of the world.
Okay.
And I'll say that if you look at this in 2021 or 22, 95% was Indonesia. So I think what happened at over a period of time, so we kept on growing, but the idea was to scale the business beyond a single country, and
Right.
that's where we looked at a lot of inbound leads coming from different part of the world and establishing India office. Yeah.
Hmm. Is India a profitable market?
I think, see, we have been in India for approximately 2 years plus. So this year we will break even our India business. So
One is like your break even, but generally speaking, for your kind of business, is this a lucrative market?
I'll say right now,
Or-
looking at the business, I'll say yes. If you were asked me this question 5 years back, you could have asked me a question, Rajiv, why you never did India before?
Hmm.
Okay, because somehow, 5 or 6 years back, I felt that India was not ready for SaaS. India was not ready for these kind of products, but I was possibly wrong. 2 years back when we tried this, it was possible it began as an experiment, honestly. I think
Hmm.
for a lot of entrepreneurs, when they go to a new market, a lot of those new markets are experiments. I was very pleasantly surprised that India, people have already been educated to that level, right? See, in comparison to Southeast Asia, if I have to compare, in Southeast Asia, I have to educate people on these products or these tools or these services. In India, people have heard about it. Might be somebody has done it, might be there's so much of education going on that people already got experience on it. So in India, I felt that the education bit was very less. It was more about just going and executing and telling the world that we have arrived here.
Okay.
So possibly that helped me a lot that I didn't have to educate the market. Number one. I think what I also realized that, of course, if you look at CLV in India per customer, it is lower than what we get in Southeast Asia, and it's much lower than what we get in US.
CLV is customer lifetime
Customer
value.
life value. Yeah, lifetime value, because the contract sizes are relatively lesser.
Okay.
The bargaining is much higher. People negotiate much higher.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's what Indians are. We are all know. We also do that as individuals. So people, they tend to negotiate very hard, but I believe the volume compensates that less CLV or less contract value per customer. And volume has become huge. I think I'll also say because there's so much of fund which has come into India. There's so much of funding has come into India. There's so many companies which are ready to take these kind of services, which was not there 5 years back. So I think that has really given impetus to the industry, especially our industry. And to me, I think India has been a rising star for our own business, much more than what I expected. Uh, and I'll say that our kind of services possibly might not be ready 6 years back, but I think is a time right now the way it is growing, and the SaaS market in India is really doing well.
So what is selling more in India, the SaaS or the services?
Uh, I think it's a mix of 50-50 proportion right now.
Okay. 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 Uh, for the what is your customer acquisition process? Like, how do you get customers?
Multiple channels.
Hmm.
I'll say the first is what I call as a marketing. So we have a marketing team and we have a sales team. All right, and they normally work in tandem. So, and in marketing we do multiple things. There is something called as inbound marketing. Inbound marketing, in very simplistic terms, is when people are reaching out to you. When you're writing your content, you're writing your blog, and people are reading it, they're searching for it, and they go to your website and they put a query out there. So that's called inbound marketing. So inbound marketing gives us a lot of leads, which goes to the sales team, and this sales team approach the client, and then we present our credentials or our demos. That's one way of doing business. That is something that has been working well for us.
And
It took
inbound
time
marketing
to
is LinkedIn, like the platform where you do
no.
that.
Inbound marketing is basically it's all SEO, which is search engine
Yeah.
optimization
Okay.
on Google,
Okay.
and we do a lot of backlinking, guest blogs, content writing, content distribution.
Okay.
Apart from that, we also do a lot of paid advertising, which we recently started. Till now, we did LinkedIn ads to build the top of the funnel, which is brand awareness. We have recently started Google ad campaigns and retargeting campaigns, which basically is to build up the bottom of the funnel,
Okay.
right? So this is a couple of things that we have started recently. I think that basically gives us
Retargeting
a lot of
means that
leads.
if someone read an article on your website, then that person will be shown an ad of Neurosensum or surveysensum when they are
Yeah,
browsing the
yeah.
net. Okay.
So that's called retargeting.
Got it.
And
Okay.
Google ad is very simple that you are bidding on a word,
Hmm.
and when somebody is searching on that word on Google, ultimately you are in front of them.
Right.
Okay. So these are what is called as a paid marketing, which is LinkedIn campaigns, Google ads, or what talk as a retargeting campaign. So we do that. That helps us to acquire the leads or source the leads. Then the sales team comes into picture in terms of contacting these clients. We do get queries from more than 30 countries right now across the world, sitting out of India. Took time, 3 or 4 years to build that funnel. And other way that we generate a lot of good leads is what we call as the events, where
Okay.
we sponsor events. We become the speaker in those events, and we put a booth, and people are coming in those events. Then comes the networking part. So I'd say these two channel has worked well. Third is what we call as a cold outreach, right? When a salesperson is doing a cold outreach, that is another way of acquiring a business, a customer. Yeah,
Hmm. How much comes from cold outreach?
very less. I think my belief is that cold outreach is dead. Until unless, you know what I've realized, Akshay, cold outreach has worked for us only when the brand has become popular.
Okay.
For example, in Indonesia, when the brand became too popular, initially cold outreach did not work. But the fact that a lot of people they know about neurosensum and surveysensum. Now, when the crowd, so I'll say that for the viewers or for the listeners, a lot of people they think that I can just cold call and then somebody will give me a a, a meeting. It doesn't happen in large to mid-sized enterprises. Also, it might happen in the smaller enterprises businesses, but it doesn't happen in the large to mid. So before you even go for a cold calling, I'll say that develop your marketing channel strong so that people are aware of you. Go to events, be a thought leader, because once you become a thought leader, people will come to you and talk to you. So try to do those funnels much better, which is the brand awareness. A lot of time people just say, okay, the simplest way is, I'll appoint 5 or 6 cold caller like a call center. Sir, do you need my card? Sir, do you need my card? That doesn't work in a SaaS atmosphere when you're selling to the big companies. And that has been one of my learnings till now, that you have to really build the brand, build the top of the funnel. Once people are aware of you, they have heard about you. Like everybody has heard about Salesforce. A lot of people have
Yes.
heard about Google and HubSpot. Once you build a brand, people will not ignore you.
Right. Interesting. Okay. That's good insight. Hmm. Okay. 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 And which is where then fundraise becomes important for SaaS companies because they need to
Yeah,
initially spend on brand building.
correct. I think for SaaS company, I think it's not only the brand building. The first thing they need to spend is on the tech.
Yeah.
You need to
Okay.
hire engineers, right? You have to hire data scientists, so on and so forth. And that's why you see SaaS companies take more time to get into profitability. Because first will come the innovation, then will come the acquisition, then will come the retention, right? And over time will come the path of profitability. And SaaS takes relatively more time.
Uh, in when you're selling a B2B product, I think that there are two broad approaches that companies take. One is like the PLG, product led growth, which is like say what maybe a like Survey Monkey
Hmm.
would be a classic example of that, right? Nobody from SurveyMonkey would be cold calling customers, but
Yeah,
SurveyMonkey has like a free plan, and people sign up for the free plan, and then they try and
right.
convert them purely through an online journey. Or
Correct.
there is like say the Salesforce approach. Nobody signs up for a free trial of Salesforce, right?
Yeah,
Somebody you're always sold Salesforce as a solution.
right.
What do you think will work for ServiceSensum? What's your uh, what's your
I think
roadmap?
very interesting question. I think it depends on the roadmap that a person wants to take. For me, I never wanted to become a survey monkey. Okay, now this freemium, model, it's called the complete inbound marketing model, right? Where you're doing these premiums, you're writing a lot of content, and you're getting these leads. You're giving a freemium model, then you're selling for $1,000 a year. And SurveyMonkey already took that space to a large extent,
Right.
right? And replacing somebody who has taken that space costs far more money. So I was very clear that I didn't want to become one more SurveyMonkey, number one, and having these kind of AI differentiators and to create one more SurveyMonkey with all the innovation that doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
So I was very clear that I wanted to go to larger enterprises and mid-sized enterprises. So PLG route or a freemium route was not never an option for us. So for us, when we do these inbound marketing, we don't rely on free trials. We rely far more on demos. So
Okay.
when you come and say, sign up for a demo, I know that you're interested with me. When you go
Right.
with the free trial, then what we do, we have people who come for the free trial. There's small trials that we have kept there, very
Like
less.
their
Then
trials.
we, yeah, and then we use email sequences to nurture them.
Hmm.
Or our tech team is monitoring and say who's using my free trials more, and then we nurture them through the email so that I'm not wasting my time to individually contact a person who wants to pay me $1,000 a year.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's a
Okay.
PLG model. It works very well for some companies if they want to play that game. I didn't want to play that game. I think I wanted to go into a game like the way Salesforce has done or Microsoft has done. So that's the approach I wanted to create uh, because we knew that who are we going to larger and mid-sized enterprises.
Your point that SurveyMonkey is already occupying that space is not entirely accurate because SurveyMonkey has zero neuro survey features,
Yes,
which you are
yeah,
offering.
correct.
So that makes it a fairly good.
Hmm.
Like that would possibly power your word of mouth and free trials, and I mean essentially these products at the end of the day work through word of
Yeah,
mouth and free trials,
yeah,
right? and
yeah,
and if there is a product with the neuro survey capability built in, and even if you allow people just, let's say, 100 respondents in the free plan,
yeah,
uh, should work is what I think, purely as an outsider, but I mean I could
yeah,
be completely wrong. But
yeah. No, I get what you're saying, and I think see when I say Survey Monkey, I'm looking at customers in three segments. Either they're larger companies, they're mid-sized companies, they're smaller companies. It's not that large companies and mid-sized companies are not using SurveyMonkey. They're still using SurveyMonkey because that's the most popular tool. They don't know any other platform.
yes.
So my idea was to go to those organizations who can pay money.
Mm.
Okay. So
Okay.
my idea was not to go to a smaller enterprise. Now the point that you mentioned, who will value a neuro insight? A neuro insight will be valued by more by mid to large. It's not that a small company will not value. A small company first have to value research.
Right.
Right? They
Okay.
have to first come into consumer research, then they have to come into neuro research.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
for
Yes.
me, people are already into the funnel, like mid
Customer.
to large.
Mm,
Yeah. And
mm,
for them, I wanted to give them a software which is far superior than a Survey Monkey,
mm,
and then move those $1,000 deals to far bigger dollar deal because the software is far more capable.
mm.
And these bigger companies, you know all of them, right? There's so many of them in India. And these bigger organizations, it's not that they can't pay money. They can pay money if they've got a superior solution which is able to save their time,
Right.
right? Because they're time bound.
Mm,
It's not that they don't have budget. They have budget. But my point is, when they have budgets, why don't we give a superior tool and get a more value out of it?
mm. Right.
It's not a Survey Monkey model cannot be classified. It can be. But
Mm.
is Survey Monkey profitable after so many years of operation?
Yeah, I'm not aware. Okay. Okay.
I
Hmm.
think it's been in operation for for what? More than 20 years possibly?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and 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 what is the valuation of that versus other companies which have done similar sorts, which someone went to compare?
Mm,
So for me, I didn't want to touch the small and medium enterprises. It was all about, and see, at the end of the day, we always tell clients that you have to be very clear and focused.
mm.
What you want to do, who you want to sell. If you're running helter skelter selling to everybody, then you're selling to nobody.
True.
I think picking your core product and your core positioning for the product that you're selling becomes the most important thing. Yeah? That's what it's called as determining what is the ICP,
Mm.
ideal
Right.
customer profile. The more early you strike your ICP, the more chances that you will become successful.
Mm.
A lot of time, what I've seen companies or startups or founders, they make this mistake of going everywhere. They don't look at who's their ICP, who's their best bet, and they burn so much of money in that process that by the time they're coming, understanding who's their ICP, they burned a lot of money, and they're almost on their knees to raise one more round. And a lot of those founders, they end up with only 10% equity
Right.
because they've done so much of fundraise because they're just running helter skelter, touching everybody. Okay, let me also sell to this. Let me also sell to that. And I think sometimes stepping back and having that wisdom and maturity to really understand what you want to sell, to whom you want to sell, and why you want to sell. You might take a bit more time. I could have easily taken SurveyMonkey and copied it and started with SurveyMonkey, right? That would have been the easiest approach, but that was a no-brainer approach. But going back and saying, this is what my ICP can be. Go and test it out. Test the market. See whether there's a real market out there. Who these larger and mid-sized enterprises are using? Are they using consulting companies? Are they using SurveyMonkey? And they were using both. So I started moving them from consulting to us to some extent and SurveyMonkey to us to some extent, right? Because with the software they were able to get cheaper price and it was far more superior than SurveyMonkey, but they can pay far more because if they can pay 100K to a consulting company, they can easily pay 10K for a surveysensum
Right.
as long as it provides them the value. So I think those elements are very important for any founder to strike.
Did you do market research when you were launching Survey Sensor?
Of course, we did. So when we
What was it that you discovered? Like,
So remember, then I told you the story in 2018 when clients had told us that what all they want, and we would have met more than. So in Indonesia, I think I personally would have spoken to around 70, 80 large to mid-sized enterprises because we were working with them. But we also went to the small enterprises, and that's where we understood they're using Google Form, Typeform, SurveyMonkey. And after we understood it, then we started designing it at a conceptual stage. We
okay.
looked at the features around the world. We saw some of the other platforms. I mean, there are many other good platforms, and we started kind of researching, googling, trying it out, checking. Then we created a concept out of it. That okay, our product will have these. Screens were not ready. UX and UX takes time. But at a concept level, then we presented those concepts to our client. What if those are using SurveyMonkey? What if we provide you A, B, C, D? It will look like this. It's a journey. It's a roadmap. Will you try us?
Okay.
And that helps us to kind of design. That's what is called as ideation or conceptualization when you look at your competition landscape. If we can't do it being a market researcher, then we are not good researchers.
Right. Right. You de-risk the product journey by
Yeah,
getting your clients involved at every step. That does this sound like an appealing product
absolutely.
to you? And
And they
then,
might not be able to tell you everything, right? You have to just go back to the drawing board and start conceptualizing. I think that's a competition landscape, understanding different products out there. I think in the world where we are right now, you don't have to fly to a US to learn everything.
true.
You can sit and you can attend some conferences virtually. You can do Google and you can know so many things which are happening.
Yeah. 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 Fascinating. Uh, okay. Why are you incorporated and headquartered in Indonesia?
Like you say, headquartered in Singapore.
Okay. Okay. But
So
Indonesia is your primary market, right? How did that happen?
Indonesia is what we started. I think possibly because I was there for a long time. Uh,
Okay.
I had good connections. I knew the market well. And when we started, I was physically based there. Uh, and my co-founder is also who has worked in Indonesia. His name is Mahesh. He's also worked in Indonesia for a long time. So I think that basically made a simple sense of starting in a market where we have been there for long. And that's how the business started.
And is the business environment in Indonesia different from India? And how is it different?
I think I'll say India is a far bigger market than Indonesia. I think if you say from that perspective, because simple, the population is 5 to 6 times of what Indonesia is. I think what I see in Indonesia when uh, we launched the similar services in India, what I realized in Indonesia we had to do a far more education because it's relatively new. Very few people were talking about it. In India, I felt that there was a lot of more discussion which were happening in the boardroom around this. So we didn't have to we did not have to educate on the concept. We have to just go and tell So in India, the challenge was how are you superior to others,
Mm-hmm. So,
global players?
like, India is more globally aware, like,
Yes,
of what's happening in the world, and
I think it was possibly because some people from US they tried selling in India before, right?
mm, right, right.
And people were more aware. So I think in here it was what is the differentiation vis-a-vis others,
Mm,
especially the companies who are coming from US. In Indonesia, it was more about how I'm different, how I can help you,
right.
uh, and how these products can ultimately benefit you. It was more at educational level. I think that's
Mm,
where the context difference was there.
okay, okay, okay. Understood. Okay, cool. Let me end with this question. What's your advice to young aspiring founders?
There can be so many of them that I can advise.
Mm,
I think my first biggest advice is when you're starting a company, first I think have the real reason of why you're starting something. That purpose of starting a business has to be there. And I've seen with a lot of young founders, the purpose of starting the business is that I want to make quick bucks. Okay. So that cannot be the purpose of the business, right? You have to have a purpose which is solving a real problem. And if you're able to solve that problem, you will eventually make money. That's number one advice. Second, I'll say, I'll possibly say choose your team very, very wisely. Sometimes I do see young founders, okay, two friends, they come together, they have the same skill set. Two sales guys starting it together, not complementing each other is a very, it's not something which is totally desirable. People can still do it, but take your team which can complement. Have your co-founders which are complementing what you're doing. Third, I'll say uh, startup is not the bed of roses. Okay, and more than that, it's a bed of thorns. So
mhm,
to the outside world, when they see founders getting exit, and we talk about Paytms of the world, we talk about so many other founders have made big amount of money, but very few of them they are able to. I think the fact is, I'll say 5% of the startups they survive for more than 5 years.
yeah,
1% of the startups they survive more than 10 years. Okay, that's the official fact. So it's a bed of thorns that people have to be realizing that from the outside world it looks very rosy, and you see somebody getting really rich and say, oh my god, I want to get rich by starting a startup. That's
not
not
many
the point here.
exceptions. Yeah.
Yeah. I think possibly one more point I want to just add here, which is uh, understanding your customer pain point is very, very important, right? Don't be in a rush to raise too much too fast too soon. Sometimes people they end up diluting approximately 50 to 60% of the stake while they're even in their seed or pre-series round. I have only diluted close to 25 to 30% of my stake, of the company's stake, even when we are in Series B where we are right now, because I wanted to keep it so that when you dilute at a higher valuation, not at a lower valuation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't be in a hurry to dilute immediately. And more importantly, I think the last thing is that the path of profitability has to be there right from day one in your mind. Your investors might tell you, I want 2x, 3x, 4x growth. But believe me, the moment your cash will go over, nobody will save you. Okay. And
Yeah.
then you have to even go for a down round to save. And you might have just been having 5 or 10% of the company. And that really pains a lot.
Mm,
So don't raise more than what is required. Have the path of profitability. Have a very clear vision of what you want to build and who you want to work with. And who are the investors that you want to have on board. Because that really determines what you will do. Because believe me, it takes a lot of effort and sacrifices to build a good startup and a successful startup. So I didn't have one advice. I think that there were five or six that I wanted to share.
no, no, that was amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Rajiv.
Thanks a lot, Akshay. Thank you.